F1 Manager 2022 has just announced the focus of its next big update for PC and console, and there is some brilliant news in there for everybody. Whilst the game has been incredibly fun to play so far, there have been some glaring issues that have started to surface and become much discussed by the player base, and this update looks to tackle several of these key issues. Chris from Frontier posted on the F1 Manager Reddit yesterday, confirming that the main focus of update 1.7 would be tyre performance, behavior of cars moving aside when required, fuel delta feedback, UI placement for widescreen monitors, and the balancing of car part design focus. He goes on to say that this update is intended for delivery by the end of the week, commencing September the 19th, so not very long to wait. I'm going to quickly explain what some of those key issues are, and also what we might hope to see happen when they are fixed. Tyre performance is probably the #1 issue raised and discussed by players at the moment. What we are talking about here is the difference in delta or pace performance between the different tyre compounds, that is soft, medium and hard. As well as that, there is also the effect that tyre wear or tyre degradation has on tyre performance over the race. At the moment, the difference in pace between soft, mediums and hards is incredibly small, and certainly much smaller than in real life F1. Combine this with the lack of effect that degradation has on pace, and you end up with these trains of cars following each other around all race, overtaking each other back and forth with DRS never able to break away. This lack of pace differential really dumbs down strategy and really limits what you're able to do as a manager during a race. Of course, you do often get DRS trains in real F1, but usually this is one slow car holding up the rest, and if someone does get past them, then they tend to disappear off into the distance. In F1 Manager, however, they just tend to stay grouped up for most of the race, regardless of who is in front. Tyre performance and wear is a critical part of F1 strategy, and to have this working in a better state would hugely improve the F1 Manager experience and make race day a lot more fun. What we want to see is a much bigger difference in pace between compounds and a larger drop-off of performance as the tyres degrade over time, and not just only when they're under 30%. I think with these things adjusted or fixed, we could see the races play out in a way that feels much more realistic and tactical. The other big issue they are looking to address in this patch is the behavior of cars moving aside. This is something that is noticeable in qualifying, and also on race day, cars will block and ruin qualifying laps for other drivers without punishment, or will get in the way when blue flagged and being overtaken in a race. In qualifying, this is especially bad. If you have to overtake even a single car not on a hot lap, then your quali lap is basically ruined. There seem to be only a few set places on each track where the AI cars can move out of the way, and if you're not in these areas, then they just drive right on the racing line and you have to queue up behind them. It makes quali an absolute mess sometimes, and this is why you will often see many cars in qualifying that are 2 to 3 seconds off the pace after the first runs, and then suddenly improve on the final run when everybody goes out in sync. It's not because they messed up their first lap, it's because they got blocked by cars on their first run. I've been impacted in races by this a lot less than in qualifying, but backmarkers can still hold you up pretty badly, and especially on safety car restarts where backmarkers don't unlap themselves. It's not clear at this stage if backmarkers under the safety car will be covered by this update, but it would certainly be a huge improvement to the game if cars more realistically got off the racing line during qualifying sessions. I would certainly be happy just to see that quali issue fixed first, but then I am playing as McLaren, so I'm not doing a ton of lapping in my races right now. Fuel delta feedback is more of a minor issue for me, but it is still something a lot of players have had problems with. Basically, the indicator of how much fuel you have left can behave pretty erratically and not really go up or down in the way that you would expect given the driver instructions you've given. This just needs a bit of tweaking to get it making a bit more sense. This will allow you to properly use driver instructions regarding fuel usage to let your drivers push and use up more fuel, or lift and coast to save fuel if they're running low. The balancing of car part design focus is something they've already touched upon in update 1.6, which just went live, and it looks like they want to take things even further, essentially by shoving all the focus sliders to the right when designing car parts, you can develop incredibly powerful things. Though since 1.6, this does now take you quite some time to do, and the effect has been reduced somewhat. Now looks like we can expect some more balancing here in 1.7 to get things how Frontier want them to be. So there's some great stuff in there, and it's fantastic to see Frontier getting stuck into these important issues so quickly. There's certainly plenty left of Frontier to look at once 1.7 is out. A few of the top issues that come to mind for me would be cars running wide and then just stopping, the AI making terrible decisions and not double stacking in wet conditions, the limited number of places on each track where instance can happen, and a few other issues come to mind. If you've experienced any other issues not mentioned today, or you want to expand on some of the ones we've talked about, then feel free to post them in the comments and have a look through and see if you agree or disagree with the ones shared by other players. But as I said, very positive so far in my opinion from Frontier, and if it continues like this, I'm sure they can get the game in a much better state than it currently is in a relatively short time frame. I'm still having a lot of fun playing, but we definitely need some of these improvements in order to keep the game going for longer. So that's all from me today. Thanks very much for watching. My name's Ben, we are the Beard Guys, and I'll see you next time.